Hey, welcome back to BoneDry. I'm Joel. Today, I'm going to try and do something with this Valley Oak. I've got to get it in a real pot that's not falling apart from the sun, that's smaller, that's going to start getting it on its way to being hopefully a bonsai. Check it out. Alright, so I'm working on Valley Oak today. This oak is dead here. I think this is all dead right here. Which is kind of too bad because really, pretty nice. But I think that what I'm gonna do is break it off shorter. I don't think I want to cut here. I think I'd like a break or a natural kind of, yeah. It's a pretty gnarly. I mean, it already looks like an old tree, and it is quite a few years old. It was on a fence line. It kept getting cut down, and but always survived, just like they do. And so it was potted a year ago, but November-ish, maybe early December. And put it in these big, I gave them lots of room because the roots, you can imagine the roots that I had to cut to get these out of the ground and into the pots. But so I wanted to give them as much as I could, but now I'm anxious to get them going in a bonsai pot. I want to start, I know I'm gonna have to cut more root today, I'm sure. And I want to get this root base kind of started in the direction that it needs to go, radially, flatter, shallower pot. So that's what I'm doing. Bringing you in closer and get you a look at this gnarly kind of bark texture. So here's how that bark is kind of looking. Getting old looking and aged. This is the dead trunk. This live is, it's smoother, but it's trying to look a little bit aged. These will likely not be part of the final design, nor will these roots. I'll find out when I get this out of the pot, but I expect these are going to be a little high. Back around here. This, I expect, is part of the reason why this died. I don't know, or if this died first. It's rolling back over. Nice. It's not a bad looking. I'm just character. It's got some character. So, I'm excited to get this out of the pot and see what is underneath here. So yeah, I'll start that now. I put a lid top to my soil bucket down to try and catch, but I think I'm gonna just try and lift it straight out and see what happens. This thing's just falling apart. I guess it served its purpose for the year, but I don't want to damage. So there's no way that the roots have grown into all of this soil. So yeah, it's not going to come out all at once. I may just reuse the soil that I've got this in now. Let's see. When I potted these, I looked up a guy that seems to have some success getting these out of the ground and getting them going as bonsai and having them live. And that's kind of where I got my soil mix that I use generally for everything. lot of weight over here in soil. There we go. And I'm sure it's too much soil too. This is, again, rookie mistake. But I did have gnarly root bases on these things when I took them out of the ground, and so not real fine, good root systems either, but just lots of long roots that I didn't see as something that would be kept later. So that's the tree out of the pot. There's a lot of root growing through my drainage screen there on the bottom. I'm gonna get the bulk of this out of the way here, and then I'm gonna try and save this moss and start combing this away. See about saving this moss. And that was no problem at all. Soil's pretty dry, a little bit moist, but I don't think I've been overwatering at all. Just trying to, I know there's no foliage on the trees right now, and I don't want them completely dry. This is getting some, what looks like some fine roots. A lot of root over on this side and quite a bit on this side. I don't expect to root prune this today and have my perfect root system done. It's a process. You know, I'll take off as much as I dare to today. It may not be everything that I want to take off, but hopefully it'll be a good start, and I can put the tree back in a pot and it survives, and I let it grow for a couple years, and then the next time I'll make a couple more corrections, hopefully, and over time and years get a nice root base. I do think right now, looking at this thing, that the plane of my roots is going to get lowered by quite a bit. I almost don't want to hurt these roots that came through the screen, but I just don't see any way to save them. they're, yeah. I can't cut around them, so they've got to come off. This is that drywall tape that I use. You can see it doesn't disintegrate at all. Okay. And, you know, a few crossing in the wrong direction, but all in all, so the mix for these trees on the soil was about 20% sphagnum moss, 20% orchid bark or fir bark, 20% soil, as in composted peat, potting soil type soil, 20% like akadama, or you could probably use humus, or you could use kitty litter, or turfus, or fish tank aquarium gravel, whatever. Something that holds water, I guess. And 20% perlite or vermiculite. I'm gonna clean up and I'm gonna start doing some pruning. All right, so I've got the tree all washed up. I'm pretty excited about this, actually. I'm gonna be able to lower this root plane. I'm gonna take all these roots off of what now I'm calling the trunk, and I'm gonna be able to raise this tree up in the pot a little bit. So I'll start with that. I think even this small one here. Now I think the tack that I'll take is to turn the tree over and decide what I'm doing with the bottom. This thing, it looks like I took a tap that may have been twisting pretty good here. And so I'm just gonna start with stuff that is growing weird. I may take I may just want to take this whole ball off of the bottom here. Try and flatten things. But I really want the tree to survive. I don't have to do everything right now. Like I said, I'm not looking for the perfect roots first year out the gate. I'm just want to be on the way. I want to be in the right direction. I think I will take this off. Like that. Something like that. So that's all I took off at that cut. Got one going in a weird direction there. This one goes down. These roots here on this side I'm kind of liking. See, that's dead. So I'm going to take that off. This looks no good either. This root grows back at a 90 off of this one over here. These roots look better here, so I'm going to take this one off. It doesn't, it just comes at a 90 degree off the tree. I'll remove this root. Don't like the way this looks here, nor this, but it's the only, I don't know, it could be, maybe that's what I should be thinking about, is keeping more of this. Yeah, that's what I've got to do. I've got to take this off, and maybe even these two off, and just start with these fine fibrous roots. And I'm not supporting a lot of tree up here. I think I'll try that. Let me have a look. Yeah, see, I've got a lot of roots down here below these that I expect to grow this year. I think I will. I think I'll bite the bullet and go for it. This is one of those things, you know, you put this in dirt and you're not going to look at these roots for another 2 years at least. So you want to be able to try and do as much as you can. As much as you can get away with. Those roots divide, that's okay. This one comes back. Take it off. So that's gonna do it for the root pruning. I won't mess. I'll clean these perimeter roots up just a bit. But I won't do it completely until I decide how I'm going to put it in the pot. And see how they'll fit in the pot. So I think everything's looking pretty radial on that. So now I've got this dead section here, and I need to decide if I can break it. Oak gets really hard. It's a hardwood. Because I'd like to, it needs more character than just a straight. And I want to give these some room also to start growing out in it where this trunk was. So something like that. So I think I'll just live with that for now. And it'll start rotting away some more, or I'll decide if I want to attempt to carve at it. So I've picked this pot for the tree. I think it's going to be a decent size for it. It's not super shallow, but I don't think it's so much soil that the tree can't use up the moisture in it. So if I planted it like this, I'd get more of this thing in the front, which is kind of cool. And I've still got a pretty decent root base there and I've got a trunk coming toward me. Something about, yeah, I don't know, somewhere in there. So I'm gonna do some drainage screens and get some soil going. So this is a $20 bonsai pot at the place in Sacramento where I just like to give them my business. I want to support them. They've always got what you need, and when I want it, I want them to be there. So I try to support them. This has got this big drip in the glaze here. The feet on this pot are all pretty well kind of the same. And I don't think I want this at the front of my pot right in the middle. This is more plain, just a slight glaze mark here. So I'm going with this as the front. So I just mixed a little bit of the old soil with some new. I'm gonna get some soil in the pot to get my height correct. And I'm gonna borrow this front. I like. So I'm sitting on that mound of soil right there, and you see that's going to put me just a little bit high, which is good because I can settle the tree down into that. I think just a little bit of root pruning here, just for some room. Nothing else is touching. Squirrel. I forgot to mention the magic ingredient in the soil is the border collie hair. I'm gonna get some of this in and spend a little time making sure that they get it between all the roots. Sphagnum moss, sphagnum moss. So yeah, there's nothing at all wrong with this soil that these trees, or that this tree was in. It's you know, it could have spent 4 or 5 years in that soil and done fine. So I'm not too worried about reusing it. Have that patch of moss that I want to put back on here somewhere. I like moss. This some of that patented border color here. That stuff, I'm telling you what, that stuff grows some trees. Got a couple other little patches of moss. You know, all the moss that I put on my weeping willow when I did that planting is just trashed. The birds, they just, I'll tell you what, man, I guess they know what's new moss and what's established moss, because dang, they won't leave it alone. And they're bound and determined to find a bug underneath it. Okay, with that, I've got my Valley Oak planted up in a new pot. I'm going to clean this up and we'll give it a water. So here's that finished product. I decided not to water it this evening. Got put back in moist soil, and I don't think it needs to sit overnight wet, not wet. So I'm gonna water it in the morning. back to the front there. This will roughen up, hopefully start to blend, and maybe next time we visit this tree for some root work in a couple years, get to lift it out a little bit more and start exposing some nice surface roots. That's the hope. So we'll see. Anyway, that's gonna do it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it as always. Subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing. Until next time, I've got, I think, 3 other oaks that need to be put in pots. Don't have nice shiny pots for all of them, but they are going to get put into a more of a bonsai style pot. So yeah, thanks for watching. Take care.